Hello, my homies. Happy summer solstice. I'm Jenny. I'm a life coach. And today I'm going to talk about what the INFJ dream job is. Most INFJs are very dissatisfied with their jobs because we need our jobs to have meaning and we live in a capitalist hellscape. There are so many things that we love, and there are so many things that we are good at, and none of those things are things that we can do for 8 hours a day. If we're doing something that we love for 8 hours a day, we're not going to love it anymore. Humans in general are not meant to work 8 hours a day. We're designed, by design, we're made to work like 4 hours a day max. And again, INFJs are not motivated by rewards. We're motivated by meaning. We can push through that for a while, but we will burn out eventually. If we're pushing through a job that we hate because we need it to pay the bills, we can do that for a while, but we will burn out eventually. So we need our work to have meaning. We need to have control over our environment. We are very sensitive to our environment. And so if we can have control over our environment, if we can have a very peaceful, calm environment, we really need that in order to do a good job and to be happy in our jobs and to not get burnt out in our jobs. We like to socialize sometimes, but we really need to have control over when we socialize. So if we're having to go to meetings, we don't really have control over that. If people are constantly stepping into our cubicle, we don't really have control over that. When we're working home alone, I think that's what most of us think that we prefer, because in a lot of cases, that is the best option. That is the closest thing to what we need. But we can be even happier when we are able to choose when we have alone time, when we're socializing, and all of those things. So workplaces are really doing themselves a disservice by not accommodating us. We are very intellectual. We are very gifted. We have very creative ideas. And workplaces are not giving us the accommodations that we need in order for them to really benefit from our true potential, at least especially in the United States. So when we're working crazy shifts where we can't have a normal sleep schedule, when we don't have enough breaks to go outside, these are places where workplaces could be more accommodating, and could cultivate a culture that is more inclusive for all personality types. If all of this is resonating with you, I think a very normal reaction is to go, she's right. What am I going to do? I need to quit my job. How I'm going to find something. And I don't want you to stress out, because your current job could still be serving a purpose. Your current job could still be a stepping stone. If you might be able to see the stepping stone that you want to get to, and it might be too big of a gap, right? And so your current job could be the stepping stone that you need to bridge that gap. So you don't have to think of it like your current job is all bad and you have to get out immediately. And I don't want you to feel all this pressure that you need to do that. Think of it as it is a stepping stone. Okay. So some solutions to this problem are, number one, working part-time, if you can afford to do that. I know, if you're working part-time, you're not going to be making as much money. When it comes to how much money that you need to make, really try to separate what is just fear-based and what is logic-based. So it feels scary to make less money, right? But maybe when you sit down and you actually think about it, as far as the numbers go, you can still make it work. So really try to remove the fear from those decisions as much as you can. Think about how little can you afford to work? How little can you afford to work? And just really try to approach that question from a place that is not coming from fear. Freelancing is great. I freelanced for a long time. That gave me a lot of freedom. It seems like since COVID, it's gotten a lot harder to freelance just because there's a lot more competition now. So the game kind of changed, and I used to be great at it. And the game has kind of changed now, but I know there's lots of people who are very successful and happy freelancing. With freelancing, you get to set your own hours. You get to set your own prices. So freelancing can be really great. You do need to have strong boundaries with freelancing because a lot of empaths underprice themselves and don't have boundaries on like when they're available, and they end up overworking just out of their own guilt and not necessarily because the client is demanding it. First of all, if the client is demanding certain hours from you, they're not a good client. But a lot of the times it's just burdens that we place on ourselves. So with freelancing, you want to have really strong boundaries about the types of people that you're working with, how long they should expect to wait to hear from you, how long they should expect for turnaround times. And another thing that can happen is a bottleneck where the client wants a certain deadline, but you need information from them to finish the project, and they take forever to get you that information. So those are just things to think about when you're giving estimated turnaround times. It's if you get me all these things on time. And those are things that you'll also just kind of learn as you go. A really good way to manage that is just to put it all in a contract that they have to sign. And every time you encounter a new problem, add that to the contract so you can avoid it the next time. Working remotely is great. I love working remotely because I can work from home and I have full control over my environment. I get to control the lighting. I get to control the temperature. I can just stop to eat when I'm hungry. I don't have to wait for a lunch break. I don't have to wait for someone else to get back from their lunch break. When the sun comes out, I can go get a little bit of sunshine for a minute. So I love to work remotely, but it can also be very isolating. It can also be very lonely and isolating. So that's something that you might want to think about too. A lot of people will go just kind of work in a coffee shop for a few hours, or go find a co-working space to work at once a week, or something like that. So that can help with the loneliness and the isolation. In my last video, I talked about how a lot of INFJs are neurodiverse. And if you have an official diagnosis, if you know exactly what kind of neurodiversity you have, a lot of the time that will qualify you for accommodations, for special accommodations through the Americans with Disabilities Act. This territory, I think, can feel really uncomfortable for people emotionally because it's like branding yourself with a disability. I do not think of it that way. I like to reword disability as disabled as differently abled. And it's just about playing their game, right? Like, it's really just about playing their game so that you can get the accommodations that you need. It doesn't mean that you're worse than other people. It just means that you're different. And ultimately, if it allows you to have more accommodations, I feel like that's a win, right? It's like, you know what? I don't care. You can call me disabled all day. If I get to like make my own schedule and be happier at work, then call me whatever you want. That's just me. But some of the accommodations that you can ask for are a flexible work schedule or the ability to work from home. And your job by law has to do their absolute best to give you that, to meet those requests. So if you have a diagnosis or if you're willing to go get diagnosed, by law, you are allowed to ask for different work schedules and the ability to work from home and those kinds of things. You can also look for jobs that are more neurodiverse friendly. You can look for jobs that are in more neurodiverse friendly fields. Some examples of those would be research, academia, mental health, creativity, those kind of categories of jobs. But ultimately, I think what all of these different options lead to is the fact that we need freedom and we need autonomy and we need a collaborative environment. The whole leader-follower setup feels really gross to us. We want to collaborate. Like, we want a boss who makes us feel like an equal. We want a boss who treats us like an equal. We want to brainstorm ideas together. We need our work environment to be very collaborative. If you are stuck in a job that you just cannot stand and you don't know what to do, I think there's a common conception that you have to do the right thing and the responsible thing, and you have to have another job lined up before you can quit. And I don't believe in that. That's the logical, safe thing to do. And sometimes the logical, safe thing to do doesn't work. I was in a job that was completely toxic and draining, and I just didn't have energy at the end of the day to find something else. And so I quit without a plan. And so I just want you to give yourself to trust your intuition with that. You are allowed to act without guarantees. If you're doing what you know is best for you, best for your physical health, best for your mental health, things kind of have a way of working out. So forget, like, kick your parents' voice out of your head, the whole like be responsible, and responsible means like you need another job that pays the same or more. Like, just get that voice out, kick them out, and just trust yourself, trust your intuition. You know what you need better than anyone else. You know yourself better than anyone else. So just trust yourself. Or, in a situation like that, you could also just try like taking vacation time. And then I feel like there's a lot of guilt of like, you're wasting your vacation time to look for jobs instead of enjoying yourself. But sometimes that's just what you have to do. No, it's not ideal, but sometimes that's just the only way out. So just do what you have to do. It's okay. What I think the INFJ dream job is working for yourself. And there's two different ways that this can kind of manifest. So if you've read the 4-Hour Workweek, I'm a big fan of Tim Ferriss. He talks about finding your muse. And a muse is a business that you're not passionate about, but it gives you the freedom to go find what you are passionate about and to go do the things that you are passionate about. And this is actually how I did things. I had a marketing agency. With that, you are going to struggle because if you're not passionate about it, we lose interest kind of too quickly to make that successful. I think the reason I was successful is because I had assistants that I was outsourcing to. So it didn't matter that I wasn't passionate because I had other people who who could fill in the motivation gaps when I didn't have them, if that makes sense. So if you want to go the muse route for INFJs, I would suggest that you have a team, because then you can outsource things to people and you don't have to be motivated all of the time that way. You just need to be the idea person. Pretty much all the time you need to be the idea person and like see the patterns and like know what steps to take. But you don't need the motivation to carry you through all the steps because you have a team who's going to do that for you. The other route you can go is your passion business. This is what I am lucky enough to do now. I do also work part-time and I'm also in school, but I know that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I know that if I do it for long enough, I'll eventually be able to do this full time because I have proof that it's working. And so your passion business, I think what people get wrong about this is feeling like you're supposed to know what it is when you start. And I don't think that that's true. Another thing I think INFJs struggle with when starting their own businesses is they don't know whether to just have a brand with its own identity, so they're not really the face of the brand, versus like being part of their brand and showing their face and being part of that identity. And so when it comes to a passion business, I do think it helps for you to be your own brand. Because our ideas change so much and we change and we grow so much. And so if your passion business starts out as one specific thing, the problem is that your interests are going to change and they're not going to fit in that box anymore. And then again, you're going to lose your motivation and your interest. And you need that to stay involved in your business. So with INFJs, also with INFPs, I think your business really needs to just be like kind of your identity. And so then your business can grow and change with you. And so I think I might have mentioned this in another video, but a way that I think about it is it's not like starting a chocolate chip cookie company. It's like going to the street corner and selling some chocolate chip cookies and seeing how it goes and talking to people and seeing what they like. And then you keep perfecting the recipe, or maybe another week you try to sell snickerdoodles. And that's fun for that week. And maybe you sell snickerdoodles for a while. And it's just like going to your lemonade stand and like putting out what you feel interested in making in that moment. And so it gives you a lot more freedom to change. It gives you a lot more freedom to grow. So don't start out with saying, I'm going to make a chocolate chip cookie company. You just start out with saying, I want my own business. These are the things I'm interested in, and I'm just going to experiment. Okay. Once you find your people, look at what makes you different from them. And this is, again, not an answer that you're going to have in the beginning. It's a question that you will keep exploring as you go. And so if I look at other INFJs, I consider other INFJs my people. And so if I look at other INFJs, this is my audience, right? I found my audience finally, like the people who understand what I'm saying, the people who appreciate my ideas. That's my audience. And so what makes me different from them? I'm kind of sassy. I'm kind of sarcastic. I'm kind of outspoken. I really don't give a shit like if I piss people off anymore. So how can I use that? How can I use that to my advantage? So find your people and then look at what makes you different from them. And then you're going to go leverage that. Okay. Another place INFJs get stuck with this is they want a backlog of content. Like, okay, I want to do a business. It means I need to write all these blog posts or make all these videos, but I want to have a backlog. So if something happens or I need a break, there's a backlog. Don't worry about a backlog. You don't need a backlog of content. You just need a backlog of ideas. And if there is a gap, that's okay, because your audience is going to love you and they're going to stick with you, and it's okay. They're going to understand. So replace the need for a backlog of content with just a backlog of ideas. That's going to keep you from getting stuck when you take a break and not coming back to it. As long as you have ideas that you're excited about, it will keep you coming back. So how do you figure out like what to sell at your lemonade stand? Just start writing, either like writing down words or collecting pictures of anything and everything that you're interested in. Like, oh, I've always been a little bit curious about shamanism. Maybe that's an ingredient. You're just looking at the ingredients, right? You don't know what you're making yet. You're just looking at the ingredients. Like, oh, I really want to make something with a shamanism ingredient. Or I really like crystals. Maybe that's an ingredient. Or I really like philosophy. Maybe that's an ingredient. Okay, so that's how I want you to get started. Is just write down a list of words or start collecting pictures. I love making vision boards on Pinterest, but just think about everything you're interested in. And these are ingredients. And sometimes you might make something that uses all the ingredients. Sometimes you make something that only uses a few of the ingredients. Okay, you're just making different batches of cookies, basically. So just start collecting ingredients. And you're just going to decide what to make with them as you go. You're not going to know what kind of cookies you're baking because you're co-creating with the universe, okay? And that only happens in real time. It's not something that you can predict ahead of time. It's just something that you learn through creating, that happens through the act of creating. It's not, the creation happens as you're in the process of it. So really just let go of knowing what the outcome is going to be. You can embrace laziness and boredom, and you can embrace challenges. I think we think of challenges as like stifling our goals, but challenges make us think of really creative solutions. Like if you give someone a piece of paper and you say, I want you to draw a strawberry, but you're not allowed to use red. You're not allowed to use the color red. That forces them to be really creative with how they're going to draw this strawberry. So challenges can actually be really fertile ground for creativity, and laziness and boredom can be when we're embracing laziness and boredom, that can be when our best ideas happen. Our best ideas happen when we're not overthinking. And so laziness and boredom is kind of the opposite of overthinking. And that's when you get those intuitive hits. That's when you can listen to your feelings more. Those are the INFJ strengths, is feelings and intuition. So you can think of laziness and boredom as just creating space for things to come through. Another thing INFJs get hung up on is marketing. Marketing feels really gross to us. It feels very coercive. It feels very manipulative, but you don't have to market that way. Your audience is going to be people like you. So market to your audience the same way that you would want to be marketed to. And it can just feel like being helpful, right? Marketing for INFJs is just being helpful to people, honestly. Just let go. Don't worry about statistics. Don't worry about return on investment. Don't worry about click-through rates. Don't worry about any of that crap. If you're just going out there and being helpful, the right people will find you. So all of these ideas, another like metaphor that I like to think of is you're just preparing the soil. You don't know what you're growing yet. You're just looking at what you're interested in and investigating those things. Like maybe go read a book or take a class or watch a YouTube video about things that you've always been interested in. And you don't know what you're growing yet. You're just preparing the soil. So just go learn, just go down rabbit holes. For example, I read a book about trauma, and that book referenced another book about internal family systems. And then I went to an internal family systems therapist, and she mentioned how it's like soul retrieval, which is a shamanic practice, which led me to books on shamanism. So just let yourself go down those rabbit holes. You never know where you're going to end up, but it's going to give you more ingredients. You might get some interesting recipes out of it. So don't worry about what you're going to grow. Just prepare the soil. And preparing the soil means learning about things you're interested in, going down those rabbit holes, exploring without worrying about where you're going to end up. Another hang up, people get really hung up on, they want their life to be meaningful, they want to find their purpose, and they don't know what it is. And people get really hung up on, I want a purpose and I don't know what it is. But the search for meaning is also meaningful. The journey is the meaningful part. So as long as you're looking for your meaning, just relax into that and know that that's meaningful too. Another hang up for INFJs who are like being a face of a brand is that most of our childhoods, for most of us, we were ridiculed for being ourselves. So it's terrifying to actually put yourself out there. And my advice for that is just do it scared. Like, if you're afraid of offending people, go do it on purpose, right? Like if you think you're bad at art, go make bad art, right? It's only a problem if you want to make good art. Being bad at art is only a problem if you want to make good art. So go make bad art. If you're scared of being ridiculed, set out to get ridiculed on purpose. Okay. Just go do it scared. Go do what you're scared of on purpose. And if you do get ridiculed, this is your garden, right? And you get to weed it. So if someone leaves a comment that you don't like, you can block them, or you can mute them so that they think they're leaving a comment that everyone else sees. But really they're the only ones who see it, right? There's all kinds of things you can do. And I think that can be really hard for us to do, because that can kind of feel like narcissistic to us, to just like ignore feedback, or to ignore feedback just because we don't like it. But if that is going to poison your energy, if that is going to stop you from fulfilling your purpose, if that is going to stop you from helping people, then your mission is more important than accepting feedback from jerks. So you're allowed to weed your garden however you want. This is your garden, and you get to weed it however you want. So just give yourself the freedom to do that. You don't have to engage with critics. I think that can kind of feel like we're failing, or like we're surrendering. And then we feel guilty about that we feel guilty about not fighting back, I think. But usually with critics, not engaging is defending yourself, because any type of engagement, good engagement, bad engagement, whatever it is, just fuels them. So By not engaging, you actually are defending yourself. It's actually really hard to not engage. It takes a lot of strength to not engage with triggering people. So by not engaging, you're actually doing a hard thing, and it does take strength, and it is the best way to defend yourself, honestly, in my opinion. You're not going to have as many critics as you think. Yeah, they're going to be critics, but it's not going to be as many as you think. And when people start appreciating you, appreciating what you're doing, it just doesn't even matter. It just doesn't even matter. Like, those people that you're helping are the only ones that matter. So you don't even really need to worry about critics. I know it feels scary, but I promise that it will be okay. And the last thing we have trouble with as far as our own business is charging what we're worth. We feel very guilty about charging people money. We can see money as very evil. But the important thing is to pay attention to how you feel about the prices that you're charging. If you're not charging enough, you're going to start to feel resentful. You're going to start feeling like people are wasting your time. And so that's a sign that you need to raise your prices. If you're charging too much, then you're going to feel guilty. You're going to feel like you're taking advantage of people. You're going to feel like you're being greedy. And so that's a sign that you're charging too much. When you're charging the right price, it's just going to feel right. It's going to feel like an even energy exchange, like you're getting just as much from them as they're getting from you. It's going to feel fair. It's going to feel equal. It's going to feel even. And if you aren't comfortable charging what you're worth, just think of it like you're getting comfortable in a new energetic space, right? Like, if you've never charged people money for something that you're personally offering, you might just need time to get comfortable charging anything, okay? It's kind of like a ladder. It's kind of like a ladder of energetic value. And so maybe you need to start at the bottom rung. And then once you get comfortable in that energy, now you can go up a step and charge a little bit more. And then once you're comfortable in that energy, you can go up a step and charge a little bit more. And you'll get more and more and more confident in what you're worth. And as your confidence increases, you'll get better at figuring out where your prices need to be. So that's everything I have for today. If you want to know more about this, there is a post on my blog called The 4-Hour Workweek for Empaths. You can go read that. I'm happy to do a coaching session if that's something that you're interested in. I hope this was helpful. If you have a job you love, leave a comment and let the rest of us know what that's like. Give us some ideas. Thanks for listening, everybody. I'll be back soon. Bye.